From the creators of the original Cheat Sheet Rankings, this is the Fantasy Index Podcast. Brought to you by Fantasy Index, the original and best since 1987. Now your hosts, Luke Wilson and Colt Williams.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Index Podcast. This is our Week 6 waiver wire edition, and before we get to that, Colt Williams with me, as always, Luke Wilson. This week's football slate, Colt, I don't know how you felt about it. To me, it felt like all of the shackles, all of the speed governors of preseason football had finally came off. We had almost nonstop good games. 7 of Week 5's 14 games were decided in the last 2 minutes, okay, or overtime. So, yeah, I don't know how you felt about it, but, yeah, I thought it was it was the best week of football we've had so far, by far.
I loved it. I mean, watching a big Red Zone fan here, Scott Hansen as well, watching the games. There were so many that were just so close to the wire, multiple 38 to 35 games or 37 to 34, whatever the Jags Colts one was. And Joe Flacco, man, Father Time, he is Father Time, and he's like, I'll retire when I want to on my own terms. He just has a cannon out there still slinging it. Yeah, a lot of really fun games here this weekend. Some disappointing performances from some very familiar names though. People you drafted high, like Bijan, I feel like is a disappointing name. I have to just throw out there, constant, he's the running back 20, 24 or something like that. You didn't draft him to be that. Tyler Algier, they're using him out there. I mean, everybody saw that game, the Bucks Falcons there on Thursday Night Football. Get your best playmaker out there. I don't know what they're doing. We thought it was Arthur Smith problem, and I know it's coming into the Bijan minute, but yeah, it's odd.
Yeah, I think that's exacerbated by the fact that every other Falcon pretty much had a huge game. Kirk Cousins obviously throws for 509 yards. Drake London explodes. Kaderil Hodge has the game-winning touchdown in overtime in a huge win. Everybody but Bijan had fun, fantasy and otherwise, in that game. I think Bijan will be fine, but yeah, I mean the insistence on continuing to feature Tyler Algier is frustrating. I'm gonna cling to the rationale that he's one of their best players. Maybe they're kind of saving him for the stretch. I don't know. I mean, it's very frustrating. Yeah.
And this isn't us bad mouthing Tyler Algier. We think he's a good player. He holds the rookie rushing record, but we want more Bijan. We drafted Bijan. We know he can be a workhorse. He has the skill set.
Colt,
just give us a little more.
If you're worrying about hurting the Tyler Algier owners' feelings out there, they should be worried about hurting our feelings. Okay, I got some Bijan. If you're a Tyler Algier owner and you're feasting on my tears, shame on you. All right. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep in my fantasy feels live on air. It's not appropriate. Some other great games from the weekend slate. Yeah, Colts Jaguars. The Jaguars, I mean, whatever. They're still 1-4, but they finally get a win, barely at the end against the Colts. The Texans, even though Josh Allen goes 9 for 30 in that game, gets knocked out briefly. Head clangs off the turf. He was out. His lights were out for at least a solid 10 count there. The Texans still need some boneheaded clock management at the end by the Bills to get a game-winning field goal there. The Ravens put the Bengals in dire straits in an overtime win in Cincinnati, even though Burrow throws for 5 touchdowns. I mean, what else can you do? Against Baltimore, still can't get it done. Ouch. The Bengals defense is hurting them. The Cardinals, maybe the biggest win of the week was the Cardinals going to San Francisco and winning that game late on the road. They're 2-0 against the NFC West, Colt. That's what do you... Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals, that was a bit of a surprise. And again, another big name that you drafted but had a disappointing performance, Marvin Harrison Jr. When you have Michael Wilson, who I think in his own right is a good player, he shouldn't be your leading receiver, shouldn't be leading in targets. I know he's leading receptions, but it's somebody you shouldn't be featuring in your offense. But they won the game, so it's just how do they want to scheme it up? I think another big storyline was the Sam Darnold revenge game, the win in London. Mm-hmm. Do you, real quick, on your opinion on those early games? Are you a fan of those? I know you're I think Central Time, so it's a little easier for you than it is for me at 6:30 in the morning.
So, let's just get personal here for a minute, Colt. I've made a lifestyle choice called having 2 young children that will never let me sleep past 6:30 while they draw breath. So it's not as big of a deal for me because I've already been up for 3-4 hours by then anyway. 8:30 start time for us here in Central Time Zone. So you do the math. But I certainly see, like, I've been burned several times, more than I care to admit, forgetting. Oh, we got a London game today. Oh, I should have checked my lineup. Oh, dang it! Now I got Michael Pruitt in my starting lineup this week. Crap. So that's the part I don't like. But
yeah, I don't like that I have to set an alarm clock to watch a football game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love football. I just don't want to have to wake up that early and do that. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Especially the same week that the bye weeks start. That's insult to injury, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Roger Goodell. You guys don't make enough money from this anyway. All right. And then getting to the late primetime matchups, Chiefs Saints tonight was, I mean, it had its moments, but I'm getting tired of saying it, but they're the overwhelming favorites to be hosting the AFC Championship game again, because I mean it's almost like child's play to them now. Like they can just play cat and mouse with teams at will. They, even without Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco, Hollywood Brown has not seen the field in a Chiefs uniform yet. They go for like over 450 yards of offense on a pretty good Saints defense. They were missing some guys tonight, but yeah, I mean, is that what was your takeaway from tonight? Obviously, you mentioned Juju before we started recording. You can wrap on him for a sec, but did tonight feel more like the Chiefs are just that much of a shoe in for another deep playoff run, or are things going awry for the Saints after their hot 2-0 start?
Yeah, so when I was watching this game, and maybe I need to pay closer attention, but Patrick Mahomes, it looked like they were constantly trying to make, like, I don't know, social media short edit clips. Like he's doing like the spin around and then throw. I don't know if you saw that one in particular. Yeah, or like falling and throwing, like trying to do and like the jumping for the first down. Like, yeah, all those are football moves, but it seemed like they were just exaggerated this weekend for tonight's game. Like I don't know if it was just me seeing that, but it just looked like he was trying to get all these, like if somebody's taking a photo, like, you're going to like puff out your chest a little bit more. You're going to,
suck in the gut,
flex a little, like, yeah. So yeah, that's what I was feeling a little bit, but again, they're just having fun out there. They're doing it effortlessly. Yeah. I mean, they're the team to beat as of right now. And they're one of 2 teams that are undefeated with the Minnesota Vikings.
Per the NFL script, and the Twitter conspiracy theories about what really governs the NFL now, it is in Taylor Swift's contract with Roger Goodell, which is a handshake agreement, that she gets at least 90 seconds of usable social media friendly footage from Chiefs games between weeks 1 and 12 every regular season from now until Travis Kelce's retirement in 2034. So I think that was a big part of it. Anyway, all right, we're having too much fun. But Juju Smith-Schuster back from the grave. I mean, I figured it was UFL time at best for this guy 2 months ago, and 130 yards tonight. My God.
Yeah, 130 yards. I mean, this is the game we see without Rashee Rice. 130 yards, 7 receptions, like 50-yard deep bomb, like kind of getting used a little bit everywhere.
The 50-yarder was just, there was no defender within a kilometer, but yeah.
But it was just a good game for him, like working the sidelines and everything. So obviously we mentioned him here on today's episode with the waiver wire wonders. Like,
I think we all have room for some poor man's Rashee Rice in our lives, especially right now.
Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it.
And then also Cowboys-Steelers was a great game, but we don't have time for that. Everyone knows the Cowboys aren't for real, and I'm a Cowboys fan, so I know the Cowboys are not for real. Colt, take us into the injuries. Speaking of needing a poor man's Rashee Rice in our lives, I take it some more guys went down, huh?
And as they do every week.
God.
You've got 4 teams that are down this week. We've got the bye weeks. They're coming up. So a lot of fantasy relevant players on these teams, the Chiefs, Rams, Dolphins, and Vikings. But getting into the injuries, Rashee Rice, LCL, I got 2 reports from Adam Schefter. I don't know if you saw them both. Yeah, right? Yeah. One says he's set to miss the rest of the regular season, but also simultaneously sent at the same time, at the same tweet, was saying something along the lines of, he's getting another opinion, and things could be, sooner rather than later. So my opinion on what to do with Rashee Rice, if you have an extra IR spot and you're not, you don't absolutely need to put somebody on there, like just stash them. Absolutely stash them. You got 2, 3, 4 IR spots, throw them on there. But if you are hurting and you need playable players, I'm not waiting for Rashee Rice. But that's my 2 cents. I'm in one league where it has 1 IR spot. I'm in one that has 4. So it's a little easier to palate.
I'm calling it now. Rashee Rice is going to the doctor that did Aaron Rodgers' Achilles last year. Remember the speed bridge procedure? Rashee Rice is going to have the speed bridge put into his knee. Keep in mind, Rashee Rice likes to go fast. So speed bridge probably that just the term sounds good to him. Anyway, go ahead.
I just think of that tweet you had, the ban the Lamborghini Urus or whatever it was for all these people speeding.
Every time a receiver does something stupid in a car, it's a Lamborghini Urus. Guys, common denominator. Hello.
There it is.
Yeah.
If we see a bit, if anything, it's maybe the playoffs, but I mean, it's
who knows?
tough.
I mean, it's so weird. All the smoke and mirrors around. Like, just tell us what's wrong with the guy's knee, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah, for real. Joe Mixon, status is still up in the air for week 6. He's been missing a lot of time, so we'll be talking about his replacement still here on today's episode. Nico Collins. Originally, they called his hamstring day to day. Now it's week to week. So it was like a big, 60, 70-yard touchdown catch. Absolutely amazing. But he ran too fast on it and was out. So that messed him out. He went out a hero yet again. I love it when players will do that for me, at least.
He was going very fast, but then he went too fast and his hamstring exploded, and that was his fault. That was not.
It was.
Look, it's getting to the point that it's not funny anymore. Honestly, like. Yeah. And then when week 2, when the injury started, I was like, okay, I remember this feeling. This is fun. The good old kick to the throat. Okay, now we'll have these players. And then the injuries kept, and now Nico's out, and it's like, okay, now if you drafted well, you are being punished for it. And if you drafted horribly, you're probably going to win. You're certainly going to win 4 out of the next 6 because you drafted the worst players who didn't happen to get hurt. Anyway.
This year, it definitely seems like it tailors to people who drafted for depth, not the stars and scrubs type of draft like you would do in an auction draft, but more the people who, I'm going to pick up my 5th running back, my 5th, wide receiver before I do my quarterback or my tight end, especially before I do my tight end. If you did that strategy, you're probably 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, somewhere around there where it's like you're just winning out just by having healthy players.
Yeah.
More injured players, though. Devon Achane, concussion. If there was ever a week to have a concussion, it's going into the bye. So the timing couldn't be better. So that's good. Speaking about concussions and other injuries, Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are expected to be back for week 6. Zach Moss, ankle injury, believed to be okay, but this one is tricky because, one, Chase Brown has been amazing, and they play on Sunday Night Football, so you need to have other options, have them in your flex spot, if nothing else, so that you could throw somebody else in there. So that's Zach Moss. Travis Etienne, shoulder injury. Doug Peterson said he got popped pretty hard during the game, so it required him to miss a good portion of the game, but Tank Bigsby also shined. I mean, it could have been a better matchup against the Colts, but it's something to be concerned about because that's 2 games in a row. Tank Bigsby is kind of catching on fire. David Njoku is undergoing an MRI, as well as Aaron Jones, both with a knee and a hip, respectively. Aaron Jones has been amazing for fantasy football, probably a top 5 running back so far on the season. And David Njoku just coming back, getting a huge catch, and then going out of the game.
Yep.
Cooper Kupp expected to be back after the bye, so returning in week 7. That's good news. We got good news in these sections too, so it's not all bad. Brandon Cooks went on IR with a knee injury. That was prior to this Sunday's game.
The good news is apparently over, though.
It got over very quick. Maybe I should have segmented them. Xavier Legette had a shoulder injury. He's not expected to miss any time. And then if you're in a kicker league, I added Jake Moody in here because he's been scoring a lot of points. He's expected to miss multiple weeks with an ankle. Please, whatever you do not hold 2 kickers in your league. It doesn't matter if it's Jake Moody. It doesn't matter if it's Justin Tucker or Brendan Aubrey. Please do not roster 2 kickers in your league.
Do not impose our fantasy nerd values on the masses, Colt. Most people still have kickers in their leagues, and that's fine. It's fine, Colt. And I'm talking more to the guys in the Discord who are all gnashing their teeth whenever anyone mentions, oh, who should I pick up at kicker? My guy's on a bye. You still play in a league with a kicker? And they all just get their hackles up. Let's not judge is all I'm saying, guys. The fantasy community is tight-knit. All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Aaron Jones goes down. Zach Moss, who has quietly been one of the nicer flex plays the last few weeks, even with Chase Brown coming on. Nico Collins obviously is the one that really hurts, and Joe comes back, immediately goes down. I mean, it's rough. Yeah. So yeah, Cooper Kupp owners, fingers crossed that you get at least a game or two out of him before. I don't know what's going to happen to him, but yeah, it's rough out here in these streets, is what we're saying, folks.
It's pretty bad. A few other just like non-injury news things. Drake May, they haven't named him the starter, but it's not a definite of Jacoby Brissett is the starter going forward. Mm-hmm. So just a little bit there. More Patriots news. Ramondre Stevenson originally lost a starting job for a fumbling issue, 4 consecutive games with a fumble. They said, hey, Antonio Gibson, you've kind of shined. You're the next guy up. But Stevenson looked better in almost every aspect of this game. I'm not extremely worried about Stevenson, but if you could sell him off this game, of course, I would be trying to do that. I really don't want any Patriots, even though we'll be mentioning some names here on today's episode. And then Aiden O'Connell, he came in for Gardner Minshew, maybe a quarter. I'm not sure what they're doing there at the quarterback position, but for what it's worth, Myers got targeted 5 times. Bowers, DJ Turner got targeted 4 times in the fourth quarter once Aiden O'Connell came in. These feel like irrelevant names to be talking about, but there are deeper leagues, so I feel like I've got to talk about them just a little bit.
Juju Smith-Schuster just dropped 130. There are no irrelevant names anymore. Michael Thomas, I'm picking him up just playing the odds at this point. Yeah. For Aiden O'Connell, I feel like there's kind of a peripheral domino that needs to fall here, and this will probably already be old news by the time this actually airs, but right now it's a hot tip. Kay Adams, who has kind of a traveling talk show with like football dudes, she teased a Twitter thing earlier tonight saying, oh boy, lots happening at the moment with our guy Davante Adams. He won't be on the show tomorrow, so he canceled a scheduled appearance. So it sounds like something could happen with Davante here very imminently. My guess would be that the 4-1 Washington Commanders, who seem to be wide receiver away from potentially being the favorites to win that division somehow, would be the best bet. So, but who knows? I mean, it's been said that he's trying to manufacture a trade to the Jets and the Saints too. So we'll see. Nothing would surprise me between those 3 teams. And then, so the Drake May thing, the kind of the quasi consensus we landed on in the Fantasy Index discourse over the summer was that the Patriots, I mean, they were serious about sticking with Brissett for a good long while. I think they kind of looked at the schedule and they saw, oh boy, Cincinnati, at the Jets, at San Francisco, Miami, who we thought would be better, Houston, and then the Jets again week 8. Like, they were trying to get through the first half of the schedule without getting Drake May killed and causing him to lose the will to fight, and then put him in somewhere, I mean, maybe as far out as like the week 14 bye. But now with the upcoming slate being at Jacksonville, home for the Jets, who are wobbly, and then at Tennessee, at Chicago's not great, but home for the Rams, it's not that bad. They're not going to win a lot of these games, but it's not as bad as maybe it looked 2 months ago. And I mean, like what else is there to do here? Like, what Jacoby Brissett is, especially like he can win games if you have elite talent around him. The Patriots are miles from being able to say that at this point. Thanks, Bill. So, I mean, I personally don't love it because it does feel like you're throwing him to the wolves. And if he comes out and stinks, like, what does that even tell you? But I mean, Jalen Polk, if we see him, Javon Baker, Demario Douglas, like, these are guys that notionally are going to be involved again in 2025. You want to see how those pieces fit together now. So I get it, but I don't envy the man.
Yeah, no, it's tough sledding. Like, the only person you were starting on this team anyways was Stevenson, and then he kind of lost the job. So it was an NFL team you were almost starting nobody on, which is profound. Like, that is insane. So,
well, Stevenson did reclaim things pretty emphatically yesterday.
He did.
But yeah, the whole we're benching him. Yeah, okay, Jared, sure thing.
Yeah,
he goes for he's the RB5 on the day as the benched. Wow, that's impressive. All right, so you had some guys that you want to talk about possibly being potential buy candidates going into week 6. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Colt?
I have one particular guy who has kind of stunk it up here these last 2 weeks. I'm talking about somebody who was drafted probably in the top 5 picks of these summer's drafts, Breece Hall. So Breece Hall, here's his rushing attempts these last 2 games: 10 for 4 rushing yards, and then 9 for 23. Still got 5 targets in one of the games, 4 targets in another game. Only 14 yards on both of those. So he's been 2 fantasy points, 5 fantasy points, absolutely miserable. He played Denver and he played Minnesota, both great defenses. Now he's getting the Buffalo Bills, which are the best defense for opposing running backs. If there's somebody who's willing to, the best defense for them, like in their favor, this is a good chance for you to buy Breece Hall, especially if the owner is like, I don't know, 0-5. 1-4, whatever it is so far on the season. Like if you can boost their roster, maybe they have somebody on bye weeks. So they're just trying to, consolidate some wins if possible. Like this would be the only time you're going to be able to buy him low, basically all season. So yeah, I would be grabbing Breece Hall. A consolation prize, I guess, would be Braylon Allen if he hits waivers, because he's not been amazing in the same duration, because again the rush defense was just so good for the last 2 matchups. So yeah, Breece Hall is somebody I'm buying in basically every league I can.
Yeah, no, if you can get Breece Hall at any kind of a discount, I'm all about that. He has been a liability fantasy wise for sure, but he posted 3 top 15 finishes to start the season in what retroactively clearly were much friendlier matchups. His schedule lets off now quite nicely here. His schedule in the fantasy playoffs is the stuff that fantasy championships are made of. Week 14, he goes to the Dolphins. Week 15, at the Jags. 16 against the Rams, and Week 17 against those same Buffalo Bills. So yeah, if anyone's feeling jumpy about their Breece Hall stocks in your league, jump all over that. That's not going to be easy to do though. Like you're going to have to give up some real horsepower, some real rocket ship to go get Breece Hall in just about every serious league. If you're a little more of a spendthrift, might I be able to persuade you to consider Rachaad White, who some could call a very poor man's Breece Hall, at least coming into the season, because he had, theoretically 3-down control. Yes, he's got a rookie bearing down on that 3-down claim now. Some would say Breece Hall is under some duress there. Offensive line for Tampa hasn't been very good in the run game. Similar things with the Jets' offensive line. And then Rachaad White's schedule is not as good as Breece's, but he does have, let me pull it up right quick, down the stretch, he's got the Panthers week 13, the Raiders week 14, then he gets the Chargers in week 15. That doesn't figure to be very nice. But against the Cowboys, who have been easy to run on so far in week 16, and then the Panthers again in fantasy championship week, it's going to be rough for the next several weeks for him. But, I mean, last year White he wasn't matchup proof, but he was certainly matchup resilient owing to the receiving work. That could bear out again here, especially with Jalen McMillan and now also Trey Palmer are banged up for the Panthers, so they're kind of short on, kind of secondary receiving options. Is he as good as Breece Hall? No, but he's a lot cheaper. So it just kind of depends on, maybe you already own Breece Hall. You can't go trade for him.
Yeah.
I like Rachaad White because there's just been so much buzz about, Bucky Irving is coming. Bucky Irving's taking over. Bucky Irving has 4 receptions on the season, guys. He's not taking over. It's not a hostile takeover anytime soon. Okay, he's got 8 receptions. Sorry. He's a good player, and he's had some, very fun highlights to share with your buddies. Look at him, he's a human joystick. But I mean, he has not logged over 42% of the snaps in any of the games yet. So I think Rachaad White is a nice buy low. Anyway.
Yeah, Rachaad White is somebody I like if you just want to wait a month. This is going to be a weird tip to hold on to, and I think a lot of things can change in a month. He could be, he could be worthless in a month, and exactly. So he could be worthless in a month, or he could be a piece of gold in a month. But the reason why I say a month is he's got 4 straight top 10 defenses against running backs this whole next month. So it's really rough sledding here for that. So if you want to buy a little bit cheaper,
did just run on the Saints. He's got the Saints next. The Chiefs just ran all over the Saints, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's get into it. We're gonna kind of not lightning round, but let's kind of get through some of these fellas. We got a lot actually. I think there were some good names here this week, and then with the bye weeks, people are going to be scrounging for each one of these players. So at the running back position, I've got two guys named here. They're over 50% rostered, so we'll just be on them briefly. Chase Brown, who we mentioned last week, he's owned in 71% of leagues. He's got 3 touchdowns through 2 weeks. Zach Moss is banged up. It's kind of opportunities knocking. So if he's out there, go and grab him. Again, plays on Sunday Night Football, so be mindful of that. And Rico Dowdle, man, I know you watched this game because as a Cowboys fan, he's rostered at 63%, but he looked phenomenal. This was his best game by far of the season, and it was against a stout Steelers defense. Like, he looked good, finishing runs. Like, it's 1st and 10. Oh no, it's 2nd and 2. Like, he is running straight up the middle, carrying people.
Caught a touchdown again.
It's caught a touchdown again, but he has a tough matchup in week 6. So it's like, man, against the Lions, like it's a rock and a hard place. I mean, is that flexible? Yeah, probably flexible. He adds some in the receiving game too. So those guys are probably rostered, but worth mentioning. Let's start it off here. Do you want to start with this first guy or the second guy?
Gotta go with Bigsby here, man. Gotta
go with Bigsby. Rostered in 31% of leagues, 13 for 101 and 2 touchdowns. Incredible matchup, as we mentioned, against the Colts. Now they play the Bears. You can run on them a little bit easier than you could pass on them. And, he's a decent stash, especially if you're the ETN owner. Like, if he were to miss any games, they play on one of these later schedules, whether it's a Sunday or Monday Night Football. Like, you probably want Bigsby there just in case he is banged up. But he's had some standalone value. Again, adds almost nothing through the passing game. But on the ground, he's looked phenomenal. 2 breakaway runs here this last game. Like, he looks good. So definitely a name worth adding, I think, on most rosters.
So, yeah, he leads the NFL in EPA per rush at this point by a handy margin.
Yeah,
again,
sure.
He only has 34 rush attempts through. He missed I believe all of week 2. So through 4 games. So that's change of pace territory 100%. But he's been fantastic, inarguably. Like, he's going for, what is it now? Yeah, 8 yards a carry. So there's just this level of excellence just demands that the Jaguars get him involved more. I was going to ask you this earlier. So Rachaad White has a little bit of a Bucky Irving problem. Travis Etienne has a bigger Tank Bigsby problem now. Who would you be more skittish to buy low on at this moment in time? Etienne at what would be his presumed asking price in most leagues, or Rachaad White?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. I mean, Travis Etienne's going to hold more value. He's going to hold. Travis Etienne's going to hold more value, just name value strictly, and so people are going to be a little bit more hesitant to give him up, I think, even with the Tank Bigsby, kind of balling out here.
Yeah.
But Etienne's schedule over the next month, pretty decent. It's middle of the pack defenses, no top 10 ones. And then Tank Dell, again, doesn't add anything as a passer. So I think it was just his last game. Etienne had like 6 receptions on maybe 7 targets. Like, he's still getting used in the pass game, got banged up this last game. So who knows what really is is it 2 bad games in a row, or is it 1 bad game in a row and 1 game where he got kind of banged up? And
he came in with a shoulder injury too, so now that's been aggravated. That's not good.
Yeah, so that's a tough part. I would lean. You could probably get more for Etienne, so if you can get something with him, but I'm probably holding Etienne. I'm not sure you could. It'll warrant what you could probably actually get for him. Right, Rachaad White,
you're gonna get offered like Devin Singletary or something, and at that point, it's like,
yeah. So it's like I'll just hold, or like somebody offers me Chase Brown, I'm going to hold Etienne in that situation. I don't know exactly what's going on with the Zach. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
that kind of trade offer is definitely going out in many leagues right now. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. It's an intriguing one. It's certainly an intriguing one. But yeah,
it makes you stop. Wait a minute. No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. Yeah.
Let's talk about a guy who got his first NFL start, Tyrone Tracy. Rostered about 34% of leagues. First NFL start, 18 for 129, averaging over 7 yards per carry. if he gets to start again, he gets the Bengals, which have been favorable for running backs. But again, just as I mentioned with Zach Moss, this is a Sunday night football game, so have other options. I don't think there's any updates here on Singletary just yet. I'll double check on that. But yeah, no updates on him. I mean, it's still very early in the week. It's Monday night. But Tyrone Tracy looked great, and they won this game. So I mean, he was a guy who I rostered just like Dontavian Wicks. Like I was grabbing him in the very last round of my drafts, every single league I could, because I thought maybe he would have a shot at the starting opportunity. I want to see what that looks like with Devin Singletary back. Like we've seen Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne on the field at the same time. What does it look like with Singletary back out there now that he's had a very good and productive game under his belt? I don't really know. So it's certainly worth a stash. I mean, you come out there first NFL start, you do that. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I see it's tough because, yeah, he passed the eyeball test just as soon as you turn on the film from was it Purdue? I want to say
Purdue, yeah,
yeah. When he transitioned to playing primarily running back his last season. He's 24, so he's not still adding man strength. I mean, this guy's ready to play right now. He's rocked up, and he was fantastic against the Seahawks in a game where, I mean, that changed the tenor of the Giants' season right now, and going into Week 6 against the Bengals, where they can put the Bengals lights out potentially. No Malik Neighbors, no Devin Singletary, the two linchpins of the offense through the first 4 games. That's a statement game from Tyrone Tracy. Juxtaposed with Eric Gray fumbling on, I believe, is either his first or his second touch. He now has 5 fumbles in his first 58 NFL carries. He's going to disappear. Yeah, it's bad. He's going to disappear down the rabbit hole. We may not see him again in a Giants uniform, frankly. So yeah. But Devin Singletary re-entering the picture, presumably Malik Neighbors, we certainly hope is.
Yeah.
I'll put it to you again. Tank Bigsby in whatever role Bigsby's going to be in against the Bears, or Tyrone Tracy with the 2 primary fantasy assets in the Giants offense re-entering the fray here against the Bengals on Sunday night. If you had to flex one.
Yeah, if I had to flex one, it would probably be Tank Bigsby, which kind of stinks because I like Tyrone Tracy better, but I have no idea what his role is when Devin Singletary gets in there. Yeah. Even though he had this explosive game, like he's somebody that needs to be rostered, but not necessarily somebody that needs to be started. Yeah, because if Singletary's healthy, like he practices all week or even just the last few games of the week, I'm expecting him to play, and I'm not starting Tracy even in this favorable matchup. So yeah, I'd have to go Tank Bigsby there, even though the matchup isn't amazing.
But they're both priority waiver wire targets, obviously.
Absolutely. Don't hear what we're not saying. Another guy here, I didn't have him too high on the list. Jalen Wright, rookie running back out of Tennessee, now Dolphins rookie running back. He looked good against the Patriots. Devon Achane goes down, sidelined with a concussion pretty early in the game. Raheem Mostert's still the guy. So this is like, it's multi-leveled. Raheem Mostert, one, is still the guy. They're going into their bye week. And then Devon Achane, you would assume, would be right back in there after the bye. So it's a deep bench kind of ad. Like maybe if you're one of the Raheem Mostert or Devon Achane, owners, then maybe you do right. But again, you're holding him through a bye week, and he's the second, if not the third, running back on the depth chart. So, but he looked good. It's worth noting.
Upcoming running back schedule for the Dolphins out of that bye week, though, just to add some intrigue.
What is this?
At Colts, Cardinals, at Buffalo. Okay. At Rams, home for the Raiders, New England, Green Bay. It gets rough after that, but that is honey-dipped upcoming run game schedule. Yeah. You can imagine what the Dolphins are going to be preparing to do coming out of their bye week. They are going to the ground in a big way. I want the other 2 guys more, but only slightly. I mean, Jalen Wright is the kind of guy that he needs one guy now to go down and potentially be a weekly Zach Moss type flex play. So, yeah, I kind of want them all. I want them all, man.
Yeah, that's a juicy schedule. You probably don't get a better schedule over these next 4 or 5 weeks you just named there. That's a really good one.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Next guy,
it gives
here,
my
Ty
Devon
Chandler.
Achane stock some hopes too, which I also like.
It does, yeah. Hey, that's a buy low right there too. If somebody's
that's a good point. Yeah, but
two, what is that? 2 or 3 games that have been bad.
Yeah, but I mean, it gets torpedoed by Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley's first game. rewind back to the buy low section of the podcast. Devon Achan's on there, baby.
Yeah.
Go get you some Achan while you still can.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, you were saying.
I like that one. No, let's talk about a guy who you kind of pounded the table for last year. Ty Chandler, rostered 36% of leagues.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones goes down, banged up here in week 5. They get another guy who's going into the bye, and then he gets the worst possible matchup, for the running back with the Lions. So it's like that is yet just another one. It's really, really rough. I don't think a lot of people are going to be looking for him because he's going to have that bye. But if you're the Aaron Jones manager, then maybe you go ahead and pay up just a little bit extra for him.
Just feel like Ty Chandler has really bad luck, and this is another example of it. Jones gets banged up, which we're not happy about that, but it does create an opportunity for Ty Chandler. except now here's the bye week, so Aaron Jones with an extra week to get right from what's probably like a hip pointer or a oblique injury or something like that, he's probably going to be fine. Ty Chandler also had like a 40-yard run where he just exploded around the tackle down the field. Got called back on a holding penalty. He had a couple plays like that last year get negated by penalties too. It's like this is one of those guys who he's secretly even better than his numbers suggest because all of his good plays get called back on penalties.
Yeah.
Anyway,
whenever I think of,
sorry,
I was just saying, I think of the Vikings running back situation. I always think of their second string running back. What was it? Was it Matt or Mike? I think it was Matt Asiaga or something like that. I think he went to the 49ers, but they've always had people who just get contracts or get moved around. Alexander Madison is what I was. What was it?
Was it Jerick McKinnon?
Jerick McKinnon was one who played behind somebody who ended up having some fantasy relevant games on other teams, and there was one. I think it was called Matt. I'll have to look it up while we talk about this. Asiaga, I think was his name. That's him. That's him for sure. I don't remember if he had fantasy relevant games, but that's the first name that comes up. I'm pretty sure he did. Number 44 for the Vikings.
Man, I vaguely remember that name, and I normally remember all the most obscure guys. So that's a good pull. Nicely done. Yeah.
No, he had one season, 9 touchdowns. So yeah, he 10 touchdowns. You include receiving. He was. I think it was 2014. So AP still had to be there. Nevertheless,
right,
I don't know why I pulled his name up when I was talking about Ty Chandler. Let's go into this next backfield. This one is going to be obscure. You have to tell me who you like more, and you have to pick a name. No. Cam Akers or Dare Agumbawale, both rostered under 50%, as you can imagine, especially with Agumbawale. They've been serviceable in Joe Mixon's absence, but again, he might miss another game. They play the Patriots, which have been favorable for running backs. In the Texans, they are 7-point favorites right now. Akers only had 9 carries in week 5. Agumbawale had 15, and he had 7 targets. So I lean the Dare Agumbawale way, and it's not if you just take the names away and you showed me the stats, I'd be like, oh yeah, I want this player. I want player B, not player A. Cam Akers hasn't looked amazing, but he found the end zone. So yeah, I mean, it's ugly, but people need to make these decisions.
Dare Agumbawale is he is a 30-year-old passing down super specialist like a James Cook or like a Kevin Falk, to borrow a couple of Patriots names of your. The complicating factor that makes me actually take it seriously is Nico Collins they're playing the Patriots. Mm-hmm. They have to figure that's a layup game. They're gonna sit him. You probably want to start both. The Mixon's probably gonna sit too. Again, it's the Patriots. I PPR Agumbawale, standard Akers, I guess. I don't. You're standard. You're just hunting for a touchdown, and I'll go Akers there. He's got a little bit more grunt. But they're both gross. Both very gross choices.
They are very gross. You want to get more gross? Roschon Johnson.
Oh,
he had 2 touchdowns. He's rostered 31% of leagues. He had 2 touchdowns. One of them I know was when the game was over. I wouldn't expect the Bears to be up 20 every single week. So worth keeping an eye on, but keep an eye on him on waivers. So I don't think he needs to be rostered except for at extremely deep leagues.
Never heard of somebody so willing to permanently piss off Chicago Bears fans, as you are right now, my friend. They're not going to be up 20 on the Jaguars next week. I think most Bears fans would disagree with you right now.
Yeah. They're not going to be up 20, but I think they win the game.
We've got this defense is as good as the 86 defense. What do you mean we're not going to be up 20 on the Jags? Bears. No. All right.
Let's get on.
Yeah, no, DeAndre Swift has been excellent the last two games. The offense is leveling out. I don't think Roschon is that good. Maybe he could be when he's actually had a little more experience as a running back. I mean, he didn't play a lot of running back in college because he was behind Bijan, and he was a high school quarterback, I think, primarily. So, and he just, I don't know, he doesn't really move like a running back to me when I watch him. So yeah, I think best case he needs more seasoning, and yeah, I'm not. Especially again, we have a good waiver wire running back class here. I'm not wasting Roschon for heck with that.
Yeah, no,
I'll take Cam Akers
sure.
over Roschon.
I figured Jeremy McNichols was mentioned last week. We had to mention Roschon Johnson, another guy who got two touchdowns.
McNichols got another touchdown. Oh my gosh,
he did. He had the same number of carries as Brian Robinson, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was still not right. They played him, but his knee's not right. So yeah, keep an eye on him on the injury report this week, boys.
For sure. On to wide receivers. Two guys here. No, he needs to be mentioned. Do not laugh.
No, for sure. No, I'm saying a guy, he was amazing.
Yeah. We're talking about and laughing about Darnell Mooney. He's rostered in 65% of leagues, so he's still out there. You may be saying, "Oh, he's not out there in mine." Check around. You may not actually know that. 16 targets in week 5. He's on pace right now. Not just that game, but on pace right now in the season. 81 receptions for 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. He's a wide receiver 14, a third way through the season. So, yeah, he needs to be rostered certainly more than 65%. He's looked good, and he has a 1,000-yard season under his belt. Yep. Mind you, that was a couple seasons ago. Like, that was probably 3 seasons ago, and they got some injuries, had some Justin Field issues with, Justin Fields could support one wide receiver, and that was DJ Moore and kind of a Colt Kmet. Darnell Mooney was not. He was on the back burner. Yep. But Atlanta, they're passing the ball a ton. So yeah, this is somebody who needs to be rostered in a lot of leagues. Take the name out of it, just throw him out there, and you'll be happy. And then Josh Downs, roster in 54%, 12 targets, 9 for 69. You keep shaking your head, but he might be your version of like my Garrett Wilson. Like I don't think Garrett Wilson's a great football player. I think 22 targets and only 101 yards is kind of telling as well. But Downs, third most receptions over the past 2 weeks. With a game and 3/4 of a game with Joe Flacco. Only Garrett Wilson and Drake London have more receptions over that time. So is Flacco back out there? Cool. I'm back in on Josh Downs. Is he not? Then yeah, I mean I get that's your argument. Right. It's like, is Richardson back out there? Like probably. So yeah.
I mean at the moment, considering that Flacco really stabilized the offense for a week, if Richardson's even 50-50. If he's in any way impaired, I think they're going to sit him for another week because why not? You can get away with it without saying, "Oh, we have a quarterback controversy on our hands." So yeah, at the moment, I expect Flacco to go again. But if you're in a situation where you're grabbing a guy for a week on a PPR scam, fine. Then I'm 100% like he probably will catch 8 balls again against the Titans. Yeah. Who have a pretty good defense and are coming off of the bye. They're rested. They have to win this game if they're going to stay in any kind of playoff berth hunt, which I mean that's crazy. We're talking about the Titans, but so yeah, in that situation, you're pinched by injuries, sure, but after that, yeah, I mean Richardson is coming back at some point, and like there's no receiver who gets erased by the return of his starting quarterback more so than like Josh Downs does. So yeah, that's my only thing. But yeah, you need a scumbag to plug in at flex and get some points for you in a full PPR league. Go for it.
I get it. Jalen Tolbert, a Cowboys wide receiver, rostered in 17% of leagues. He's wide receiver 29 on the season. Brandon Cooks, he is out for 4 weeks, as we mentioned, with the IR for his knee. I think he had an infection in his knee. He only ran 5 fewer routes than CeeDee Lamb in week 5, led the team in targets with 10, receptions with 7, and yards with 87. He also had a touchdown. Like, I think he got injured, or I don't know if he got hit in the gut or in the family jewels, like right before that, but it was the very next play. Yeah, it was family jewels. Very next play, and then he catches a touchdown, crossing route. They play the Lions, who've given it. Yeah, they play the Lions. They have the second most points They're allowing the second most points to opposing wide receiver since the highest over-under of the week. Like, if there was a time to start Jalen Tolbert, like, this is the week. And Jalen Tolbert or Rico Dowdle, who would you start in this game in your flex?
Oh.
That is a week 6 question right there.
I like them both.
Yeah.
I like them both. This is going to be a higher scoring game. I feel pretty confident. Tolbert has this wide receiver 2 job in Dallas. It's over.
Yeah.
When Brandon Cooks comes back, he's going to be on reduced snap count for sure. Tolbert's been too good, and he's been too clutch.
Yeah, he has.
He won them that game on 4th down. Like that kind of stuff matters. So yeah, Tolbert is. I don't like him as much as Mooney, but it's close. It is close. I mean, Mooney, he's got Drake London ahead of him. Tolbert has Lamb, but Mooney also has potentially Kyle Pitts. Theoretically, Bijan Robinson should see his pass volume increase. Tolbert doesn't have those levels of problems. I mean, Jake Ferguson, sure, but I like Tolbert a lot. And the Cowboys should be throwing a lot because they can't run the ball very well. So, yeah, no, that's a great one. Who's this next guy you have here? I don't think I know this one. Who's he play for?
Well, if you don't know him, just go back and listen to any of our previous waiver wire episodes. Jordan Whittington, Rams rookie wide receiver. He's only 35 years old, but also only rostered in 35% of leagues. It really does feel like he's been on our list every single week, and now he's getting more value. This is another one where it's kind of a little questionable. 18 targets over the past 2 weeks, 7 for 89 here in week 5. Full-time player in the last 2 weeks. So that's exactly what we want to see. He's been their leading receiver. He does head into a bye week, and as I mentioned, Cooper Kupp is expected to be back after the bye. So do with that what you will. If you need to start, obviously you're going to grab somebody else. But if you can stash the Jordan Whittington, who could maybe play the Puka Nacua role while, Cooper Kupp comes back, or is it Cooper Kupp getting 21 targets or 22 targets yet again, like he did in whatever it was, week 1 or 2? That's for you to decide. But going into a bye, right now with the injuries, how they are, it's hard to hold people through buys. It's hard to hold people through injuries. Like, there was a league, I was holding Rashee Rice, right? Well, I was just waiting to see what's going on with him. Malik Neighbors is out. J.K. Dobbins on bye. Like, I had everybody either out on bye on my bench. And if you need starts, you may need to look another way. Would you look this way, though? Juju Smith-Schuster, rostered in 6% of leagues. First game without Rashee Rice in their game plan, 7 for 130. Nice big 50-yard catch, as we mentioned. You rostering Juju?
You want to talk about guys who are 35 years old? Jordan Whittington is 24 years old, by the way, since Colt keeps saying he's very old. He's not that old. Anyway, Juju, yeah, I mean, just look at the landscape here. We now know that Rashee Rice, we're not going to see him before December at the earliest. There's nobody else. I mean, Xavier Worthy is still on gadget play, manufactured touch duty 100%, and clear, the Rashid Shaheed, drag a defender 40 yards downfield for us half of your routes. So yeah, I mean, it's got to be Juju. He's not that good anymore, but he's good enough with Patrick Mahomes clearly to be fantasy relevant. So yeah, you got to go get Juju 100%. I mean, any league where he's hanging out, I'm gonna go put in a claim for him for sure.
Yeah, Juju or Jalen Tolbert? Juju or Josh Downs?
Juju by a lot. Come on.
Yeah, I think that one's a little bit more Juju for me as well, just because he might have a full-time role and we know who the quarterback is. This one, I think I know who you're going to pick. Juju or Darnell Mooney?
I'll go Mooney because of talent.
Ooh.
I'll go Mooney because of talent. I mean, I don't know. Cousins is not going to throw it 58 times a game, but throwing it a crap ton was the best the Falcons have looked so far. And my gut after watching that game against Tampa, where the Falcons got a huge statement win, was that this is Kirk Cousins. It's going to be a lot of timing based routes and option route type stuff where him and the receiver or receivers have to see the coverage develop through the same eyes, kind of like with Stafford and Kupp and a lot of their stuff. So that's going to take time when you've got young receivers, quarterback coming back from an Achilles. It felt like them kind of rounding into form. I mean, they really took it to the Tampa Bay defense, which has been pretty good. I mean, Tampa came into that game having allowed 1 passing touchdown all season. 1. Now, granted, they played Bo Nix and frickin' Jaden Daniels in his first game in the NFL, so I mean, whatever, it's a little tainted. But yeah, anyway, so Mooney has access to that. Juju Smith-Schuster has access to something similar. But I mean, you and I were talking before the show. Patrick Mahomes is on pace for 20 passing touchdowns and to 20 picks. Like Kirk Cousins might be better in fantasy this year. I mean, he might.
Oh, yeah.
So
for sure,
I'll go Mooney just because talent and floor. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster could expose himself in a Walmart parking lot again tomorrow and be off the roster in a week. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. It's not all there, Colt. He went to Foxborough. He came back broken.
I don't think you could do that on TikTok, so he won't he won't be doing that. Let's talk about this next guy, a guy I like a lot. Alan Lazard, rostered in 47% of leagues. The wide receiver 2 for the Jets. In neutral game scripts, they've passed the ball at the highest rate, a nice 69%, highest in the NFL. You're wiping your head with sweat. You're saying, man, I really don't want this guy that has 10 targets, who's the wide receiver 18 on the season, who caught yet another touchdown, 4 touchdowns through 5 games against good defenses, San Francisco, New England, Denver, Minnesota. Like, I really don't want that guy. He doesn't have a lot of targets every single week, but he's catching touchdowns.
You want to go and pick up Alan Lazard, chasing some garbage line that he had because NFL defenses continue to not take him seriously because he's Alan Lazard, so they're making the right call. Only for him to give you one catch for 7 yards and no touchdowns the second you put him near your lineup. Be my guest, okay? Fine. I don't like Juju's the perfect example. I will take a bad player in a good offense. I'll do that. Too. Alan Lazard is a bad player in a almost bad offense. They are flirting with bad. They're right on the line. So yeah, I get that he randomly scumbagged his way into the end zone again. I get it. It's not going to continue. It's just not. So, but sure. I mean, I get it. What else are you going to do? Yeah. He's
been on the list for a reason. He's been catching touchdowns. A couple of other wide receivers here. You just tell me, are you in? Are you out? Darius Slayton, he had 11 targets, 8 for 122 and a touchdowns in Malik Neighbors' absence. Any interest?
Big ups to Darius Slayton for saving me in my big money Yahoo league where I was down bad with Devontae and Rashee Rice, and I started Jaleel McLaughlin at Superflex. It was that serious. I wound up putting up the highest score the league has seen all year thanks to guys like Darius Slayton. So big ups, Pops. But it's over. That was it. Malik Neighbors is back. Darius Slayton was a ghost with Neighbors in town. We're going right back to that. He's a good player. He deserves better than what he's gotten, but he's gonna have to get out of New York in the spring because this is Neighbors town now.
That's true. Alec Pierce feels like we always do this comp, but Deshaun Jackson, right? Where it's boom or bust. Like, can he go 3 for 130? He sure can. I mean, he just did that here this last week, 3 for 134 and a touchdown. The targets just simply aren't there, and I'm a big target believer. Like, I think that you should be getting targets to get a lot of fantasy points, and like, although you could argue that I don't like Garrett Wilson, but I digress. I mean, it's nice to see that he's getting those deep shots, whether it's Joe Flacco or it's Anthony Richardson. So regardless of the quarterback, if you need a shot in the dark, Alec Pierce is your guy. I don't think that you definitely need to roster him, but a shot in the dark, I mean, that's exactly what he is.
I mean, in standard, it's in PPR formats. Obviously, you got to really discount him, and a lot of leagues are full PPR these days. But if you're in a standard league and you need, somebody to flex in there, and in standard, like Pierce is probably already owned, but he's at a certain point, like he's just been too good at converting these low percentage plays for most players, for them to stop doing it, especially for a Colts offense that has been struggling for consistency. I don't love starting him any week because, I mean, let's be real. 2 out of his 5 games, he finished wide receiver 64 or worse. So, obviously. And one of those games, he had a 44-yard reception. So, I mean, he can goose egg you even on a good day. But, I mean, it depends on your league size. He could give you 60. He could give you 60-yard touchdown against the Titans. I mean, that's what he's been doing. So, dice roll.
And speaking about deep leagues, here's an extremely deep play, and this is not something I advise everybody to do, but I was cursed with watching the Dolphins-Patriots game. Jalen Polk had a touchdown. He technically didn't get it because is the way that they do the heel, not counting as your foot for the second one. And Demario Douglas, one of those two guys, if you have a deeper league, maybe even a very, very, very buy low in a dynasty league, those guys, if a quarterback change happens, we don't know what Drake May is. Like, he was drafted 3rd overall. People do think that he is a very good quarterback. I happen to think he's a good quarterback as well. Like, if he comes out and does what everybody expects him to do, then yeah, throw to the Wolves. But yeah, they get the Jags not this week, but the week after that, and that's a very, very juicy matchup if May has the chokehold on the starting job by then.
So the question is Polk or Douglas?
Well, it's Polk for me. But Douglas, I mean, in a PPR league, it could be Douglas. Like, certainly. Polk is just slowly becoming a better player, but it's Jacoby Brissett at the helm at the same time. It's like, it's hard to become a better player when you've got that going on.
I might go with Kendrick Bourne. I might go with options.
Yeah, you can go there too.
It's like, he only played 27% of the snaps in his first game off of the physically unable to perform list, coming off the ACL. But the Patriots, KJ Osborne is 118th, dead last among qualifiers in separation rate so far this season. One spot ahead of him, Jalen Polk. So the Patriots receivers so far have, nobody has taken this thing by the horns. I mean, you could say Demario Douglas nominally has been, but I mean, also Brissett has just been so sub-replacement level. We don't know if the receivers are good, bad, or indifferent. So there's that. I would go with Bourne. Why not? I mean, if you're this down bad and you have to start scrounging for Patriots receivers, why not go to grab the guy who just got a contract? Yeah, he's coming off the knee, but he actually, made some noise last year on an also bad Patriots team. But there's no right answer. Sometimes we say there's no wrong answer. There's no right answer here at all. I mean, either.
Yeah, you're in a Patriot. You prepare to lose the week. Like, it is not good news there. Let's talk about some tight ends, because we did a lot of running backs, did a lot of wide receivers. We got a couple of tight ends here.
Oh man,
but it's so tough at the tight end position. But Tucker Kraft, 65% of the league, he's rostered, back-to-back top 2 finishes. The Packers' second-year tight end, in case you weren't 100% sure of who that was, he ran the most routes among all Packers receivers over the past 2 weeks. That's over Reed, over Wicks, everybody's darling from last week, creating a ton of missed tackles. Like, he is a baller at the tight end position, and that's exactly what we need. Like, if he's out there, go get him. The tight end position is miserable. Drop Mark Andrews, go pick up Tucker Kraft. Like, people are asking, hey, do I play Tucker Kraft or Sam Laporta this week? Like, Sam Laporta's kind of stunk it up, and it's not like you're chasing, because it's 2 back-to-back good weeks for Tucker Kraft. So,
right,
yeah.
I mean, he's a top 6 tight end in fantasy right now. Sadly, like, is it sustainable? I have no idea at all. Luke Musgrave is still around, but I'm pretty sure Luke Musgrave, that's done. Like, they're not putting this one back in the box just out of spite. Yeah, the Packers offense is one of the most big play friendly offenses in the league right now. Like, they're almost manufacturing these huge splash plays, even with no Christian Watson, and even with Romeo Doubs sent to the principal's office for at least this week, and who knows how much longer after his little popping off at the mouth trouble this week. But Kraft. I mean, if you have any sort of tight end, if you don't have Brock Bowers, you need to put in a claim for Tucker Kraft. Basically, is your situation.
That's a very, very good way to put it.
Yeah.
You can put in a claim for this next guy if you so please. It's not the highest over under of the week, but we just saw the Bengals and the Ravens go crazy. What about a team that's been scoring probably top 3 points in the league? Washington Commanders tight end Zach Ertz, rostered at about half of leagues. And he plays the Ravens, who've given up the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends. Like, you could do worse. He's not amazing. But if you want to make sure you don't get a 0, I mean, Zach Ertz is certainly your guy.
8 targets?
He's getting the targets too. I don't know if you saw that one. Oh my goodness, it was so funny. It was like right up the middle. The Commanders are on their own goal line, and Zach Ertz goes right up the seam. And I don't know how fast he thought Zach Ertz was, Daniels, and he throws it not completely overthrows him, but like leads him by a good 10 yards. And I'm like, dude, this is Zach Ertz. Anything past the 10-yard line should not be thrown his way, really. But Zach Ertz, if you want to make sure you don't get a 0, especially in like a tight end premium league, I think he's worth the waiver ad.
Bears fans, Jets fans, and now Zach Ertz fans, Colt has completed the trifecta of hate mail in one episode, guys. That's a slow clap. That's impressive. It's hard to make that many people hate you in a single episode. They said it couldn't be done. All right.
It has.
It's fine. Sure. Chase the targets. The second that you put in any sort of fab investment here, Devontae Adams will be traded to the Commanders, just so you know. The second that you add Zach Ertz, you will get the notification that Zach Ertz is now worthless. He might get traded to the Raiders in the deal.
Mm-hmm.
No, probably not. But
sure,
fine.
tight end.
if you're like me and you have like Njoku, Ingram, back to back in a lot of leagues, because don't have to worry about tight end all season. That's awesome. Okay, yeah, whoopsie daisy. Yeah, sure, why not? All right, what about some QB streams for Week 6, Colt? Who you got?
So originally I kind of made this doc here before the Monday Night Football game ended. I had Derek Carr in here. They play the Bucs. Yes, the Bucs that got torched by Kirk Cousins. Prior to the Thursday Night Football game, they were second best for quarterbacks. Now they're the first best, as you can imagine. 509 yards will do that. But Derek Carr got banged up in this game. We didn't mention him in the injuries. We certainly should have. But Derek Carr, I think it was like a oblique or something with his ribs. He took a big hit. So obviously don't play him if he's he's not out there. Caleb Williams, he's a little more rostered, but in both of his 300-yard games, coming across came against bottom 6 defenses. Now he gets the second best matchup for quarterbacks. Like, this should be another good outing for the rookie who's looked better each and every single week. Like, he's adding some value on the ground as well. Yep. 384 yards on the ground is absolutely nothing to scoff at. Like, that's a mobile quarterback, and that's what Mahomes does. Like, he's getting these extra 10, 20, 30, 40-yard games, maybe even a little bit more. I added a third name here, and I see that you've already seen it because I could tell on your face. And I'm just going to say this name, and this is like a deeper super flex league. Maybe you could get something. I'm saying Daniel Jones. He's coming. What if I told you he had no Malik Neighbors? What if I told you he had no Devin Singletary, and he's coming off his best fantasy season of the season? He's going to get both those back. He's playing a middle of the pack defense here this last week, but now I mean look at him. Look what he's going to get. Like, this is exactly what you want. So I think you could do worse, but the Bengals, like I said, it could be nice.
In 4 games, I mean, he played the Vikings week 1. At the time, we were like, oh man, it's over for Dimes in New York. Turned out the Vikings were very good. So kind of, we can toss that out where he had a real clunker of a game. Since then, against Washington, who's 4-1, Cleveland, who has a solid defense, the Cowboys, and then the Seahawks, 6 passing touchdowns to 1 pick. He's running for like 25 to 30 yards a game. Hasn't rushed for a touchdown, so he's kind of due. And he gets the Bengals, who just everybody can get pretty much whatever they want on right now. Yeah. Maybe even Daniel Jones. And has Malik Neighbors back. Yeah, I mean, he's the QB 14 on the season, even with that week 1 clunker. Sure, fine.
Again, I'm whispering this. I'm not 100% advising it. But who do we have on bye? We have Patrick Mahomes. Nobody for the Dolphins. They're not starting any of those. Sam Darnold. And then Matthew Stafford, which hopefully you weren't starting him either. But Mahomes and Darnold, like, people were starting those players. And Daniel Jones has the same number of passing touchdowns as Patrick Mahomes. So that's worth a little something.
So you're saying, I'm not advocating that you get blind drunk on peach schnapps, but there is a lot of peach schnapps in the liquor cabinet. If you wanted to go that route, it's available. That's kind of what you're saying here.
Get in the flask is what I'm saying. Get in the flask.
I wouldn't start Daniel Jones, but I'm just saying it's out there for you if you want to do it.
I have Derek Carr, Geno Smith, and Daniel Jones in a league. So I will be starting Daniel Jones this week. So, I mean, granted, it's a super flex, so I need to do something. But yeah, I'll be starting them. So when you guys start them with me, go ahead and tag us on Twitter. Let us know at _Colt Williams, or you can find Luke at DLuke87 and show them. Say, hey, I started Daniel Jones. Give me my money back. Or, hey, I started Daniel Jones. Thank you so much for this advice. I didn't know he was the quarterback 14 until you said something.
Exactly. Yeah. Hit us up, and we will look forward to that. We'll also be looking forward to being back with you next week to unpack everything that happened in this Week 6 slate of action. Until then, we will see you guys next time.
See ya.
This has been the Fantasy Index Podcast. For more great content, premium rankings, and cheat sheets, head over to fantasyindex.com.